Sophia Chen stood at the entrance of Westlake Academy, clutching her schedule so tightly that the paper crinkled between her fingers. The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone pathway leading to the main building, its brick facade and tall windows looking more like a small college than a high school. Students streamed past her, laughing and calling out to friends they hadn't seen all summer. No one noticed the small, dark-haired girl frozen in place trying to gather her courage. Just another school, Sophia whispered to herself. Just another first day. But it wasn't just another school. Westlake Academy was the most prestigious art school in the state, known for launching students into top universities and conservatories. Most kids had fought to get in. Sophia had simply been enrolled when her aunt, now her guardian, moved for work. Sophia took a deep breath and joined the flow of students. She kept her eyes down, focusing on the path ahead, trying to be invisible. Her aunt had offered to walk her in, but Sophia had refused. 16 was too old for parent drop-offs, even if every fiber of her being wished someone was beside her now. The main hall buzzed with activity. Lockers clanged open and shut. Teachers directed lost freshmen. Posters advertised clubs and auditions for the fall musical. Sophia checked her schedule again, though she had memorized it days ago. First period, English Literature, room 203. She climbed the stairs, dodging groups of friends who blocked the way, chatting about their summer adventures. Room 203 was easy to find, and Sophia slipped into a seat in the back corner. Perfect. Not so far back that teachers would think she was a troublemaker, but not so close that anyone would notice her. The class filled quickly. A tall boy with glasses took the seat in front of her without a glance. Two girls sat to her left, immediately turning to each other to continue what seemed like an intense conversation about someone named Blake and a party gone wrong. Sophia pulled out her notebook and a pen, arranging them neatly on her desk. The teacher, a woman with short gray hair and bright red glasses, introduced herself as Ms. Winters. She passed out syllabi and launched into a speech about the power of literature that might have been inspiring if Sophia could focus on anything besides her racing heart. The morning passed in a blur of new faces, syllabi, and classroom rules. By lunch period, Sophia's initial anxiety had dulled to a manageable hum. No one had been mean to her. No one had really noticed her at all, which was exactly what she wanted. The cafeteria was too loud, too crowded. Sophia bought a sandwich and an apple, then slipped back into the hallway looking for a quiet place to eat. She wandered past classrooms and bulletin boards until she found herself in a corridor she hadn't seen before. A sign on the wall read, "Music Department." Sophia paused. She hadn't planned to go anywhere near the music rooms. In fact, she had specifically chosen electives that had nothing to do with music, art history and Spanish. But something pulled her forward, past practice rooms where faint melodies leaked through closed doors. At the end of the hall stood double doors, one slightly ajar. Sophia peered through the gap. Inside was a large room with a small stage at one end, and on that stage sat a grand piano, its glossy black surface catching the light from tall windows. Sophia pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. The room was empty, the air still. Her footsteps echoed as she crossed to the stage and climbed the 3 small steps. The piano drew her forward like a magnet. It was beautiful. A Steinway, she noted automatically. Probably a Model D, the kind used for concerts. Sophia's fingers tingled. How long had it been since she'd touched a piano like this? 8 months and 17 days. She set her lunch down on a nearby chair and approached the instrument. She didn't sit, not yet, but let her hand hover over the keys, not quite touching. Just being this close made something in her chest ache. "What do you think you're doing?" Sophia jumped back, nearly tripping over the piano bench. A group of students stood in the doorway. 3 girls and 2 boys, all watching her with expressions ranging from curiosity to annoyance. I'm sorry," Sophia stammered. "I was just looking." The girl who had spoken stepped forward. She was tall and slim, with light brown hair pulled back in a perfect bun. She wore a simple black dress that somehow looked expensive, and she carried herself with the kind of confidence that Sophia had never mastered. "This is the recital hall," the girl said. "It's for music students only." Her gaze flicked over Sophia, taking in her plain jeans and oversized sweater. "Are you new? I don't recognize you." "Yes," Sophia said. "I just started today." "I'm Sophia." "I'm Lily," the girl replied. I'm a senior, first chair piano. She said it like it was a royal title. Maybe here it was. The others introduced themselves too. Thomas and Zoe, both violinists. Akira, a cellist. And Devi, who played flute. They were all juniors and seniors. All clearly friends, all clearly part of a world Sophia had once belonged to. We come here to practice during lunch sometimes, Lily explained, her tone softening slightly. Ms. Reynolds, she's the music director, lets us use the recital hall when it's free. I see, Sophia said. I'll go then. She reached for her lunch, but Thomas spoke up. Hey, do you play? He nodded toward the piano. You were looking at it pretty intensely. Before Sophia could answer, Lily laughed. Oh, come on, Thomas. Look at her. She's obviously not a music student. Sophia felt her cheeks burn. It was true, she didn't look the part anymore. After everything that happened in Shanghai, she'd put away her concert clothes, let her carefully manicured nails grow out and break, stopped putting her hair up in the tight, neat bun her teacher had insisted on. She'd tried to become someone else, someone who didn't play piano, someone who didn't remember. Maybe a little, Thomas pressed, ignoring Lily's comment. I used to, Sophia said quietly, but not anymore. Something flickered across Lily's face, interest maybe, or challenge. Why don't you play something for us? She suggested, but her tone made it clear she didn't expect much. Sophia shook her head. No, really, I should go. Oh, come on, Lily insisted, a small smile playing on her lips. We're always looking for new talent. Just a little something. The others had spread out around the room, some sitting in chairs, others leaning against the wall. They all watched her, waiting. Sophia felt trapped. I haven't played in a long time, she said. All the more reason to start again, Lily replied. Just a scale, even. Something simple. Sophia looked at the piano, then back at the group. They weren't being outright mean, but she could feel the undercurrent of amusement, the expectation that whatever she played would be elementary, maybe even embarrassing. They were the elite music students, and she was just the new girl who happened to wander into their space. Okay, Sophia said finally. Just something short. She sat down at the bench, adjusting it slightly out of habit. Her hands hovered over the keys, trembling slightly. What should she play? Something simple, like Lily suggested, a scale or a basic piece that wouldn't reveal anything. Sophia placed her fingers on the cool ivory. The familiar position sent a jolt through her, a mixture of comfort and pain. 8 months and 17 days since she'd last touched a piano. 8 months and 17 days since the accident. Since everything changed. She pressed down gently, playing a C major chord. The sound rang out clear and true. The piano was perfectly tuned. Wow, a chord, Lily said, her voice dripping with fake enthusiasm. Impressive, someone snickered. Sophia's face burned hotter. Give her a chance, Thomas said, but he sounded doubtful now too. Sophia began to play a simple melody. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Her fingers moved stiffly, awkwardly. It was like her body had forgotten how to do this most natural thing, like her muscles were rebelling against her attempt to play again. Seriously? Zoe whispered, not quietly enough. Akira shushed her, but the damage was done. Sophia could feel their eyes on her, could sense their disappointment, their confirmation that she was exactly what they thought. Just a new girl who didn't belong in their world. Behind her, the door opened again. Sophia didn't turn to look, but she heard Lily say, Oh, Ms. Reynolds, we were just listening to our new friend play. Sophia wanted to disappear. Now a teacher was here to witness her humiliation, too. She hit a wrong note, then another. The simple tune fell apart under her fingers. She stopped, her hands frozen above the keys. 8 months and 17 days of silence, of refusing to play, of locking away the thing she had once loved most in the world. And now here she was, failing even at the simplest piece in front of strangers who were already judging her. Something shifted inside Sophia. A spark of anger, small but hot, flared to life. Why was she playing this childish tune? Why was she pretending to be less than she was? The old fear clawed at her, the fear of playing and remembering, of opening that door and letting all the pain rush back in. But suddenly the fear of sitting here, being laughed at and dismissed, felt worse. Actually, Sophia said quietly, I think I can play something else. She closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and let her hands find their home on the keys. 8 months and 17 days fell away as her fingers began to move, and the opening notes of a piece she knew by heart filled the room. The room fell silent, as Sophia's fingers touched the keys again. This time she didn't think about the students watching her or what they might expect. She thought about the piano beneath her hands, solid and real. She thought about her grandmother's apartment in Shanghai, where she had practiced for hours each day on a much smaller instrument. She thought about her teacher, Mr. Wu, and his constant reminder, "The piano does not play itself. You must speak through it." Sophia began with a single note, then another, slow, deliberate. The opening bars of Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata filled the recital hall. The piece was melancholy and gentle, like a quiet conversation in the dark. It wasn't the most technically challenging piece she knew, but it was honest. It was a beginning. Her fingers remembered the way, even after 8 months and 17 days. They found the keys without her having to look, pressing with just the right amount of force to make the notes sing rather than simply sound. The familiar movement felt like coming home after a long journey. From the corner of her eye, Sophia saw Lily shift her weight, arms crossed. The other students had gone completely still. Ms. Reynolds, a woman with silver-streaked black hair and kind eyes, stood near the door, watching with an unreadable expression. Sophia closed her eyes. The first movement of the sonata was all about feeling, about conveying emotion through the simplest of melodies. She let herself sink into the music. Let it carry her away from this room, these strangers, this moment of judgment, as she played the final notes. Letting them fade into silence, Sophia kept her eyes closed for a moment longer. When she opened them, she found 5 stunned faces staring back at her. "That was—" Thomas began, but trailed off, apparently at a loss for words. "Acceptable," Lily finished for him, though her tight smile suggested it was more than that. Better than twinkle, twinkle, at least. Ms. Reynolds stepped forward. "That was beautifully played, Miss Chen," Sophia supplied. "Sophia Chen. Miss Chen. I don't believe you're in any of my music classes." Sophia shook her head. "No, ma'am. I'm new. Today is my first day." "I see." Ms. Reynolds considered her for a moment. "Well, you clearly have training. Quite extensive training, I would guess." Sophia looked down at her hands, now resting in her lap. "I used to study piano. Back in Shanghai. Used to?" Ms. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. "With playing like that, I'm surprised you'd ever stop." The question hung in the air. Sophia didn't know how to answer without saying too much. Without cracking open the door she'd kept firmly shut for 8 months and 17 days. "People quit things all the time," Lily said into the silence, her voice casual but with an edge. "Maybe she just got bored." Sophia looked up, meeting Lily's eyes. There was something challenging in them, something that said, "You might be good, but you're still an outsider." "I didn't get bored," Sophia said quietly. "Then why stop?" Thomas asked. He seemed genuinely curious. "You're really good," Sophia hesitated. How could she explain? How could she tell these strangers about the accident? About her father's car sliding on an icy road? About the weeks in the hospital hoping he would wake up? About the funeral where she couldn't even cry because it didn't feel real? How could she tell them that every note she played reminded her of him sitting in the front row of her recitals? His face full of pride. "Family reasons," she said finally. Ms. Reynolds nodded as if she understood more than Sophia had said. "Well, we would be delighted to have you in our music program, if you're interested in picking it up again. The Period 4 piano elective still has openings. I don't think," Sophia began. "She could audition for the winter showcase," Devi suggested suddenly. The flutist had been so quiet that Sophia had almost forgotten she was there. "It's in December. That would give her time to get back into practice." "Oh, I don't know about that," Sophia said quickly. Playing a simple piece in an empty recital hall was one thing. Performing in front of an audience again was something else entirely. "The winter showcase is highly competitive," Lily said, a hint of protectiveness in her voice. "People prepare for months, and the piece you just played, while nice, is hardly showcase material," Zoe added. Ms. Reynolds held up a hand to quiet them. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Miss Chen just arrived today. I'm sure she needs time to settle in before making any decisions about extracurricular activities." The bell rang, signaling the end of lunch period. Sophia stood quickly, relieved by the interruption. "I should get to class," she said, gathering her still uneaten lunch. "What do you have next?" Thomas asked. Sophia checked her schedule. World history with Mr. Diaz. That's in the South Building," Akira said helpfully. "I can show you the way." I'm heading there too. Before Sophia could respond, Ms. Reynolds spoke again. Miss Chen, would you mind staying for just a moment? I'll write you a pass for your next class. Sophia hesitated, then nodded. The other students filed out, Lily glancing back over her shoulder with a last curious look before the door closed behind them. When they were alone, Ms. Reynolds sat down on one of the chairs in the front row, gesturing for Sophia to take another. I hope I'm not overstepping, the teacher began, but I've been teaching music for 30 years and I know talent when I hear it. Your technique is excellent, but more importantly, you play with feeling. That's something that can't be taught. Sophia twisted the strap of her bag between her fingers. Thank you. May I ask who you studied with in Shanghai? Mr. Wu Liang at the Shanghai Conservatory of Music, Sophia replied automatically. I started when I was 4. Ms. Reynolds' eyebrows shot up. Wu Liang? He's quite renowned. You must have been one of his top students. Sophia looked away. I was going to audition for the Central Conservatory in Beijing next year. That was the plan anyway. And now? Sophia shrugged. Now I'm here. Ms. Reynolds nodded slowly. Whatever your reasons for stopping, Sophia, and they're your reasons, you don't need to share them. Music like yours shouldn't be lost. Think about what I said. The piano elective. No pressure to perform, just a place to play. I'll think about it, Sophia said, though she had no intention of doing so. One impulsive moment at the piano didn't change anything. It didn't change what had happened, and it didn't change her decision to leave that life behind. Ms. Reynolds seemed to sense her reluctance. Sometimes, she said gently, the things that hurt us most are also the things that can heal us. Sophia said nothing. Ms. Reynolds wrote out a pass and handed it to her. South building, end of the main hallway on the left, she said. You can't miss it. Thank you, Sophia said, taking the pass. She hurried out of the recital hall, trying to push the whole incident out of her mind. It was a mistake touching the piano. She wouldn't do it again. The South building was easy to find, just as Ms. Reynolds had said. Sophia slipped into world history a few minutes late, handing Mr. Diaz her pass without meeting his eyes. She took a seat in the back corner again, relieved when he continued his introduction without drawing attention to her. As Mr. Diaz talked about the course syllabus, Sophia found her mind wandering back to the recital hall. Her fingers twitched in her lap, playing phantom notes on an invisible keyboard. She hadn't realized how much she'd missed it, the feel of the keys, the sound filling a room, the way the world narrowed down to just her and the music when she played. But with the music came the memories, and Sophia wasn't ready for those. Not yet, maybe not ever. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Sophia found her classrooms, nodded politely when spoken to, and tried to focus on normal first-day things like remembering teachers' names and figuring out the school layout. By the time the final bell rang, she was exhausted from the effort of being new, of being noticed, of being reminded. She was gathering books from her newly assigned locker when someone tapped her shoulder. She turned to find Thomas standing there, a nervous smile on his face. Hey, he said. How was the rest of your first day? Fine, Sophia replied, surprised by his appearance. Just fine. Cool. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. So, a bunch of us usually go to the music rooms after school to practice. Ms. Reynolds lets us stay until 5. You should come. Sophia closed her locker. I can't. My aunt is picking me up. Tomorrow, then? He pressed. Lily's really good, you know. I think you two could learn from each other. Sophia doubted that Lily wanted to learn anything from her. The girl had made it clear that she was the piano star at Westlake, and Sophia was just an interloper who'd had one decent moment at the keyboard. I don't really play anymore, Sophia said. I don't know what today was. Thomas looked disappointed but nodded. Okay, but if you change your mind, we're there most days. He turned to go, then paused. That thing you played, the Beethoven, it was really beautiful. Like Goosebumps beautiful, just so you know. He walked away before Sophia could respond. She stood there for a moment, his words echoing in her mind. Goosebumps beautiful. When was the last time anyone had said something like that about her playing? Her father, maybe, at her last recital before the accident. You made me feel the music, he'd said. That's the greatest gift a musician can give. Sophia slung her backpack over her shoulder and headed for the exit, pushing the thought away. One moment of weakness at the piano didn't change her decision. One day at a new school didn't erase 8 months and 17 days of grief. Nothing was different. except that her fingers wouldn't stop moving, playing silent melodies against the fabric of her jeans as she walked. Except that for the first time in 8 months and 17 days, Sophia could hear music in her head again. Sophia managed to avoid the music wing for the next 3 days. She ate lunch in the courtyard, found alternate routes to her classes, and declined Thomas's increasingly persistent invitations to join the after-school practice sessions. She told herself she was just trying to settle in, to focus on her academic classes, to make a fresh start as she had planned. But the truth was that Sophia couldn't stop thinking about the piano. At night, she would lie awake, phantom melodies running through her head. During class, she would catch herself tapping rhythms on her desk. Once in English, Ms. Winters had to call her name twice because Sophia was lost in thought, mentally playing through Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. By Friday, Sophia felt like she was fighting a losing battle with herself. She sat in Spanish class, half listening to Senora Garcia explain verb conjugations when a note landed on her desk. She unfolded it carefully. "Recital hall lunch, please come. We need to talk." Lily Sophia stared at the note, surprised. She hadn't spoken to Lily since Monday in the recital hall. What could the girl possibly want to talk about? Sophia's first instinct was to ignore the invitation, to stick to her plan of avoiding anything to do with music. But curiosity got the better of her. When the lunch bell rang, she found herself walking toward the music wing, her heart beating a little faster with each step. The recital hall was empty when she arrived. Sophia hesitated in the doorway, wondering if she'd misunderstood or if Lily had changed her mind. Then she heard it, piano music coming from one of the practice rooms down the hall. Sophia followed the sound. Through the small window in the door, she could see Lily at the piano, playing with intense concentration. Sophia recognized the piece immediately, Rachmaninoff's Prelude in G minor. It was fiendishly difficult, full of big chords and rapid runs that required both technical skill and emotional depth. Lily played it well, very well, in fact. Her technique was nearly flawless, her fingers flying over the keys with precision and control. Sophia found herself nodding along, impressed despite herself. But something was missing. The notes were all there, perfectly executed, but they didn't quite connect into a story. It was like listening to someone recite a beautiful poem in a language they didn't fully understand. All the words correct, but the meaning just out of reach. Sophia was so caught up in listening that she didn't notice when the music stopped. The door swung open, making her jump back. "I knew you'd come," Lily said, not looking particularly surprised to find Sophia eavesdropping. "Come in, I wanted to talk to you privately." Sophia followed her into the practice room, feeling oddly nervous. The space was small, just big enough for an upright piano and a couple of chairs. Lily's sheet music was spread across the piano, the Rachmaninoff Prelude along with several other challenging pieces. "You play beautifully," Sophia offered, breaking the silence. Lily smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Thank you. I've been working on that piece for 3 months. She paused, studying Sophia with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "You could play it better, though, couldn't you?" The question caught Sophia off guard. I don't know. I haven't practiced in a long time." "But you studied with Wu Liang," Lily pressed. "Thomas looked him up. He only takes students who could become concert pianists. You must have been really good." Sophia shrugged, unsure how to respond. "That was before." "Before what?" Lily asked. The directness of the question made Sophia flinch. No one had asked her so bluntly before. Her aunt tiptoed around the subject of the accident, and her old friends in Shanghai had gradually stopped calling when Sophia made it clear she didn't want to talk about it. "Before my father died," Sophia said quietly. The words hung in the air between them. Lily's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry. That's really hard," Sophia nodded, throat tight. "He was driving me home from a recital. It was snowing. The car slid on ice and hit a tree. He didn't make it. I broke my wrist and some ribs, but otherwise I was fine." She swallowed hard, physically fine anyway. "And you haven't played since?" "I couldn't at first, because of my wrist. And then I just didn't want to anymore." Lily was quiet for a moment, absorbing this. "But you played on Monday." "That was a mistake," Sophia said quickly. "I shouldn't have." "It didn't sound like a mistake," Lily countered. "It sounded like someone who loves music." Sophia looked away. "Why did you ask me to come here, Lily?" Lily took a deep breath as if steeling herself for something difficult. "I need your help." That was the last thing Sophia had expected to hear. My help? With what? The winter showcase, Lily explained. It's a really big deal here. College scouts come, especially from music schools. I'm a senior this year, so it's my last chance to impress them. Sophia was confused. But you're really good. I don't see how I could help you. I'm technically good, Lily corrected her. But you have something else. When you played that Beethoven piece, it was so simple compared to what I can play, but you made everyone feel something. She looked down at her hands. My teacher keeps telling me I'm too mechanical, that I need to connect more with the music. I thought maybe you could help me with that. Sophia was stunned. The confident, almost arrogant girl from Monday was gone, replaced by someone vulnerable and uncertain. I don't know if I can, Sophia admitted. I'm not even sure I want to be involved with music anymore. Just think about it, Lily urged. We could work together after school. I could help you get back into practice, and you could help me with the feeling part. Before Sophia could respond, the door opened again. Thomas poked his head in, grinning when he saw Sophia. You came, he exclaimed. Does this mean you're joining us after school? Sophia looked from Thomas to Lily, feeling cornered. I haven't decided yet. We're playing through some chamber music today, Thomas said enthusiastically. Zoe's brother is bringing his cello and we need a pianist. I really can't, Sophia began. Just come and listen, Lily interrupted, surprising Sophia with her support. No pressure to play, Sophia hesitated. Part of her, a growing part, wanted to say yes. Wanted to sit at the piano again, to make music with others, to reclaim the thing she had loved so much. But another part was still afraid. Afraid of the memories, afraid of the pain, afraid of moving on. I'll think about it, she said finally. Thomas looked disappointed but nodded. Okay, room 108 after school, just in case you change your mind. The lunch bell rang, signaling the end of their break. Sophia gathered her things, relieved to have an excuse to leave the charged atmosphere of the practice room. Sophia, Lily called as she reached the door. For what it's worth, I think your father would want you to keep playing. The words hit Sophia like a physical blow. She hurried out without responding, barely making it to the bathroom before the tears started flowing. She locked herself in a stall and pressed her fist against her mouth to muffle the sobs that shook her body. How dare Lily say that? How could she possibly know what Sophia's father would want? She hadn't known him, hadn't seen how his face lit up when Sophia played, hadn't heard him hum along tunelessly to her practice pieces, hadn't felt the gentle pressure of his hand on her shoulder before each recital. But even as anger surged through her, a small voice in the back of Sophia's mind whispered that Lily was right. Her father had loved music, had loved Sophia's music especially. The last thing he would have wanted was for her to give it up because of him. Sophia wiped her eyes and took a few deep breaths, trying to compose herself. She was already late for history class. She couldn't afford to miss more school, especially not during her first week. She splashed cold water on her face and headed to class, slipping in with a mumbled apology to Mr. Diaz. As she took notes on the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, Sophia found her mind drifting to room 108 and what might be happening there after school. By the time the final bell rang, Sophia had made her decision. She texted her aunt that she would be staying late and walked slowly toward the music wing. She could hear the sounds of instruments tuning up as she approached room 108, a larger practice room used for chamber groups. She paused outside the door, listening. Violin, cello, flute, and piano. Lily must be playing. Sophia recognized the piece, Schumann's Piano Quintet in E-flat major. The piano part was prominent, setting the tone for the entire ensemble. Sophia pushed the door open quietly and slipped inside. The room was arranged for rehearsal, chairs set in a semicircle around the piano where Lily sat, focused intently on her music. Thomas stood nearby with his violin, while Zoe and a boy who looked like her older brother played viola and cello. Devi had her flute and Akira was adjusting his cello strings. No one noticed Sophia at first. They were working through a difficult passage, stopping and starting as they tried to coordinate their parts. Sophia could hear the problem. The piano and strings weren't quite locking in rhythmically, creating a slight disconnect in the music. It's the syncopation, she said without thinking. The piano needs to lead more confidently through the transition. Everyone turned to look at her. Thomas broke into a wide smile. You came, he exclaimed. Lily looked more reserved, but Sophia thought she detected relief in her eyes. Can you show me what you mean? She asked, scooting over on the piano bench. Sophia hesitated only a moment before crossing the room and sitting beside Lily. May I? She asked, gesturing to the keys. Lily nodded and moved her hands away. Sophia positioned her fingers and played the passage in question, emphasizing the subtle rhythmic pulse that needed to drive the section forward. Like that, she said. The strings follow your lead here. Lily tried it, her version slightly more hesitant but heading in the right direction. Better? Much, Sophia said with a small smile. Why don't you play it with us? Thomas suggested eagerly. Just this movement. Lily can turn pages. Sophia looked around at the expectant faces surrounding her. These weren't strangers anymore, not really. They were fellow musicians, people who understood the language she had spoken all her life until 8 months and 17 days ago. Okay, she heard herself say, just this movement. As they began to play together, something shifted inside Sophia. The knot of grief that had lived in her chest for so long didn't disappear, but it loosened, making room for something else, something that felt a lot like joy. One rehearsal turned into 2, then 3, then a regular commitment. Before Sophia quite realized what was happening, she had become part of the chamber group. They met every day after school, working through the Schumann quintet piece by piece, measure by measure, until it began to take shape under their hands. For Sophia, each day brought a new challenge. Some days playing felt natural, like returning to a conversation with an old friend. Other days grief would ambush her. A certain chord progression would remind her of her father, or a melody would bring back memories of her old life in Shanghai. On those days she would falter, her fingers freezing on the keys, but the others were patient with her. Thomas would crack a joke to break the tension. Zoe would suggest they take a break. Even Lily, who Sophia had expected to be irritated by her inconsistency, would simply say, "Take your time. We'll pick it up again when you're ready." 2 weeks after her first rehearsal with the group, Sophia found herself alone in the recital hall during her free period. She hadn't planned to go there. Her feet had simply carried her to the place where the grand piano waited, its black surface gleaming under the lights. Sophia sat down at the bench and placed her hands on the keys, feeling the cool ivory beneath her fingertips. Without thinking too much about it, she began to play. Not Beethoven this time, nor the Schumann they had been rehearsing. Instead, her fingers found their way to Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3 in D minor. It was the most challenging piece she had ever learned, the one she had been preparing for her conservatory audition before the accident. Her teacher, Mr. Wu, had pushed her hard on it, insisting that it would showcase her technical prowess as well as her emotional depth. Sophia had practiced it for hours each day, determined to master its formidable demands. Now, as she began the deceptively simple opening theme, Sophia wondered if she would remember it all. It had been 8 months and 31 days since she had played it last. But her muscle memory was strong, her fingers finding the right keys almost without conscious thought. The piece built gradually, growing in complexity and intensity. Sophia leaned into it, losing herself in the music. When she reached the first big cadenza, a virtuosic solo passage that had once terrified her, she hesitated only briefly before plunging in. Some notes were missed, some passages less clean than they had once been, but the music flowed through her like a river breaking through a dam. Sophia was so absorbed that she didn't notice she had an audience until she finished the first movement and looked up, breathing hard from the exertion. Ms. Reynolds stood in the doorway, her expression a mixture of awe and something like vindication. "I had a feeling," the teacher said quietly, walking into the room. "When I heard you play that Beethoven, I thought there might be more where that came from." "But Rachmaninoff's third? That's conservatory-level repertoire." Sophia's cheeks warmed at the praise. "It's not perfect. I'm out of practice." "Perfection is overrated," Ms. Reynolds said, sitting down beside Sophia on the bench. "What you just played had life in it. That's far more important." She paused, studying Sophia's face. "Have you reconsidered joining the music program?" Sophia looked down at the keys, tracing a pattern with her finger. "I've been playing with Lily's chamber group after school, so I've heard. They sound wonderful together." Ms. Reynolds smiled. "But that's not what I asked." Sophia took a deep breath. "I don't know if I'm ready for formal lessons again. Or performances. Because of your father?" Sophia nodded, not trusting herself to speak. I lost my mother when I was about your age, Miss Reynolds said gently. She was the one who taught me to play piano. For a long time after she died, I couldn't bear to touch the instrument. It hurt too much. Sophia looked up, surprised by the personal revelation. What changed? I realized that playing was the one way I could still feel connected to her. That the music was a gift she had given me, and by rejecting it, I was losing her all over again. Ms. Reynolds placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. Everyone's grief is different, Sophia. You have to find your own way through it. But I think, based on what I just heard, that music might be part of your way. The words settled in Sophia's heart, resonating with a truth she had been trying to ignore. Her father had loved her playing. He had sacrificed to give her lessons, had rearranged his work schedule to drive her to recitals, had sat in the front row of every performance with tears in his eyes. The winter showcase auditions are next week, Ms. Reynolds continued. No pressure, but if you're interested, there's still time to prepare a piece. Sophia's initial instinct was to refuse. The idea of performing in front of an audience again made her stomach twist with anxiety. But before she could say no, she found herself asking, what would I need to do? Ms. Reynolds looked pleased but kept her voice casual. Prepare a piece that showcases your abilities. Something challenging but that you feel comfortable with. The audition is in front of the music faculty, just 4 of us. If selected, you'd perform in the showcase in December. I'll think about it, Sophia said. The same answer she had been giving to every music-related question for weeks. But this time she actually meant it. When Sophia arrived at the chamber group rehearsal after school, she found an unusual scene. Instead of setting up to play, the others were huddled around Lily, who appeared to be in the middle of a meltdown. It's impossible, Lily was saying, her voice tight with frustration. I've tried everything. I can play all the notes perfectly, but Dr. Chen still says it lacks emotion. Dr. Chen was the head of the music department, a stern woman with exacting standards who taught the advanced piano students. What piece? Sophia asked, setting down her backpack. Everyone turned to look at her. Lily wiped quickly at her eyes, embarrassed to be caught in a moment of weakness. Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor, she answered. It's my audition piece for the showcase, Sophia nodded. It was a beautiful piece, dramatic and technically demanding. A good choice for someone with Lily's skills. Can I hear it? She asked. Lily hesitated, then nodded. The others moved aside as she took her place at the piano. She arranged her music, took a deep breath, and began to play. As before, her technique was nearly flawless. Her fingers flew over the keys with precision, navigating the difficult runs and complex harmonies with apparent ease. But Sophia could hear what Dr. Chen had meant. The performance was impressive, but somehow hollow, like a beautiful painting viewed through a foggy window. When Lily finished, she looked up at Sophia expectantly. Well, Sophia chose her words carefully, you play it beautifully. But Chopin wrote this after he left Poland during a political uprising. He never went back home. This piece is about homesickness, about longing for something you've lost. Lily frowned. I know the history. Dr. Chen made me write a whole paper on it. Knowing it isn't the same as feeling it, Sophia said gently. She sat down beside Lily on the bench. Can I show you something? Lily moved over and Sophia positioned her hands. Rather than playing the whole piece, she focused on one short passage, a simple, melancholy melody that appeared between more dramatic sections. This part here, Sophia said, playing the notes softly. It's like someone remembering their home, the quiet moments. It should sound almost like a lullaby. She played it again, letting the melody breathe, giving it a wistful quality. Now you try, she encouraged. Lily repeated the passage, her version more technically precise but still missing something. Close your eyes, Sophia suggested. Think about something you miss, something that makes your heart ache a little when you remember it. Lily looked skeptical but closed her eyes. She sat still for a moment, then began to play again. This time there was a subtle difference, a gentleness, a hesitancy that hadn't been there before. The notes weren't just notes anymore. They carried feeling. When she finished, Lily opened her eyes, looking surprised. That was different. That was Chopin, Sophia said with a small smile. Thomas, who had been watching the exchange intently, cleared his throat. Sophia, did you decide about the showcase auditions? Sophia felt everyone's eyes on her. Ms. Reynolds mentioned it earlier, she admitted. You should do it, Zoe said immediately. You're better than half the people who'll be auditioning. What would you play? Akira asked. Sophia thought for a moment. The obvious choice was the Rachmaninoff concerto she had been practicing earlier. It would certainly impress the judges, but the idea of performing such an emotionally demanding piece in front of an audience made her palms sweat. "I'm not sure," she said. "I don't even know if I'm going to audition." "You should," Lily said, surprising everyone. "Dr. Chen is always saying we need more serious pianists in the program." Sophia looked at her, detecting no jealousy or competition in her expression, just a simple acknowledgement of Sophia's ability. "Maybe we could help each other," Sophia suggested tentatively. "I could work with you on bringing more emotion to your Chopin, and you could help me prepare for the audition. If I decide to do it," she added quickly. Lily's face brightened. "Really? You'd help me? What are friends for?" Sophia said, the word friends slipping out before she had fully considered it. But as she looked around at the circle of faces, Thomas's open grin, Zoe's approving nod, Debbie's gentle smile, Akira's quiet interest, and Lily's grateful expression, Sophia realized that's what they were becoming. Friends united by music, by the shared language of notes and rhythms and harmonies. That evening, when her aunt asked how school was going, Sophia found herself talking about the chamber group, about Ms. Reynolds, about the winter showcase. She talked about music in a way she hadn't in 8 months and 31 days. "It sounds like you're finding your place," her aunt said, squeezing Sophia's hand across the dinner table. Sophia nodded. "Maybe," she said. "I'm thinking about auditioning for the showcase." Her aunt's eyes widened in surprise, then filled with tears. "Your father would be so proud," she whispered. This time the words didn't hurt. Instead, they settled in Sophia's heart like a benediction, a permission to move forward without leaving her father behind. That night, Sophia made her decision. She would audition for the showcase, and she knew exactly what piece she would play. The day of the showcase auditions arrived with a mixture of sunshine and clouds, much like Sophia's own emotions. She had spent the past week practicing intensely, rediscovering muscles and reflexes that had gone dormant during her long break from the piano. Her fingers were sore, her shoulders ached, but there was a satisfaction in the physical fatigue that came from doing something she loved. Lily had been true to her word, meeting with Sophia every day during lunch to help her prepare. Despite her own anxiety about her audition, Lily had proven to be a patient coach, focusing on the technical aspects that Sophia needed to refine after her months away from regular practice. In return, Sophia had worked with Lily on bringing emotion to her Chopin ballade. It had been a struggle at first. Lily was so used to focusing on perfect execution that she found it hard to let go and feel the music. But gradually, she had begun to understand what Sophia was trying to show her. "It's like the difference between reading a speech and having a conversation," Sophia had explained. "When you play, you're telling a story, not just reciting notes." Now, as Sophia sat outside the recital hall waiting for her turn to audition, she felt her stomach twist with nerves. She hadn't performed for judges in nearly a year. What if she froze? What if her fingers wouldn't cooperate? What if the grief that was always just below the surface suddenly overwhelmed her? The door opened and a pale-faced boy emerged, clutching his violin case. "They're ready for the next person," he said to no one in particular. Sophia stood smoothing her skirt with damp palms. As she moved toward the door, Lily appeared around the corner, slightly out of breath. "Did I miss it? Are you going in now?" she asked. Sophia nodded, surprised. "Shouldn't you be in class?" "I told Mr. Diaz I had a women's issue," Lily said with a small smile. "He got flustered and wrote me a pass immediately." Despite her nerves, Sophia laughed. "That's terrible, but effective." Lily squeezed her arm. "You're going to be amazing. Just play like you do when it's just us, okay? Like no one's watching." Sophia took a deep breath and entered the recital hall. 4 teachers sat at a table in the center of the room. Ms. Reynolds, Dr. Chen, Mr. Abernathy, the strings teacher, and Mrs. Davis, who taught woodwinds. They looked up as she approached, their faces neutral and professional. "Sophia Chen," Ms. Reynolds said, checking her list. "What will you be playing for us today?" Sophia placed her sheet music on the piano, though she wouldn't need it. This piece lived in her heart, in her fingers, in her very bones. "I'll be playing Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3 in D minor first movement," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Dr. Chen's eyebrows rose slightly. It was an ambitious choice for a high school audition. but she simply nodded and made a note on her paper. Sophia sat at the bench, adjusting it to the right height. She placed her hands on the keys and closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself. In her mind, she could see her father sitting in the front row, his eyes shining with pride. She could hear Mr. Wu's voice. "The piano is your voice. Speak through it." She began to play. The opening theme was simple, almost plain, a deceptive start to one of the most challenging pieces in the piano repertoire. Sophia played it with a quiet intensity, like someone telling a secret. As the piece progressed, growing more complex with each measure, she felt herself disappearing into the music, becoming merely the vessel through which Rachmaninoff's notes flowed into the world. When she reached the cadenza, the extended solo section that had once seemed impossibly difficult, Sophia chose the more complex of the two versions Rachmaninoff had written. Her fingers flew across the keys, finding patterns and pathways that her conscious mind could barely track. She made a few small mistakes, notes that weren't quite clean or phrases that could have been more precise, but she didn't let them derail her. She simply kept going, kept telling the story. By the time she reached the powerful conclusion of the first movement, Sophia was no longer thinking about technique or impressing the judges. She was thinking about her father, about how music had connected them, about how he had always believed in her talent even when she doubted herself. She poured all of that emotion into the final passages, ending with a decisive chord that seemed to hang in the air even after her hands lifted from the keys. There was a moment of complete silence. Sophia sat still, breathing hard, waiting. "Thank you, Miss Chen," Dr. Chen said finally, her voice revealing nothing. That was illuminating. Sophia stood, gathering her sheet music with slightly shaky hands. "Thank you for listening," she said politely, the formal phrase her old teacher had drilled into her after every performance. As she turned to leave, Ms. Reynolds called after her. "Results will be posted tomorrow morning. The showcase is 3 weeks from Saturday." Sophia nodded and hurried out, feeling lightheaded from the adrenaline crash. Lily was waiting in the hallway, practically bouncing with anticipation. "Well?" she demanded. "How did it go?" "I think okay," Sophia said uncertainly. "I made some mistakes, but I didn't stop." Dr. Chen said it was illuminating, whatever that means. "Coming from her, that's practically a standing ovation," Lily assured her. "Now we just have to wait until tomorrow." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Sophia went through her classes mechanically, her mind still echoing with Rachmaninoff. That evening, she called her grandmother in Shanghai, something she hadn't done in months. "I played today, Nai," she said in Mandarin, "for an audition." Her grandmother's voice cracked with emotion. "Oh, little one, your father would be so happy." I think he would," Sophia agreed, tears welling in her eyes. "I miss him so much." "He is in the music," her grandmother said softly. "When you play, he hears you." Sophia slept fitfully that night, dreaming of pianos with keys that turned to water under her fingers. She woke early before her alarm and dressed with unusual care. Whatever the outcome of the audition, today marked a turning point. She had played again, really played, not just for herself or for her friends, but for an audience. She had broken the silence of 8 months and 38 days. When Sophia arrived at school, there was already a crowd gathered around the bulletin board outside the music wing. She hesitated, suddenly afraid to look at the list. What if her name wasn't there? "Sophia!" Thomas called, spotting her from the edge of the crowd. He pushed his way toward her, his face split by an enormous grin. "You made it! You're in!" Relief and joy surged through her. "Really? Second slot in the program," he confirmed. "It's a big deal. They usually put the best performers in the first and last few slots." Sophia scanned the crowd, looking for Lily. "What about Lily? Did she make it too?" Thomas nodded. "Closing the show. She texted me earlier. She's thrilled." Sophia finally made her way to the bulletin board to see for herself. There it was, printed in black and white. Sophia Chen, piano. Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 3 in D minor, first movement. As she stared at her name, someone tapped her shoulder. She turned to find Dr. Chen standing behind her, her usual stern expression softened by what might have been a smile. "Congratulations, Miss Chen," the teacher said. "Your technique needs some refinement after your break, but your musicality is extraordinary. With proper coaching, you could have a future in this." Sophia swallowed hard. Thank you, Dr. Chen. That means a lot. Ms. Reynolds tells me you studied with Wu Liang.